Welcome everyone to another enterprise ready Linux distribution episode. It's a little bit enterprise law today, so I'm using quality noise cancelling in-ear headsets. If this is too much background noise, better, because it's like minus 30 dB, so it's like only 25 dB decibel between noise floor, and yeah, leave me in the comments below. Probably sounds like an airplane, but yeah. So, and welcome everyone. What does it say? No data. So what I've done, the usual stuff, right? I got ourselves some nice enterprise Linux toys here. Not epic, not thread wrapping, but share, like, and subscribe if you want to see more details to that. And as usual, when I get some stuff, so yes, 60, it's like 60. Yeah, you don't even see so many threads, because it doesn't even, does it? Yeah, now we're talking 127.5 gigabyte memory and 64 freaking threads. Today's topic, I only want to give you a short vlog update of how much attention to detail you can do, not only supporting 28 plus CPU architectures, but also supporting all the stuff, right? This is the difference, two things, right? Not only what I always say, testing is more testing, because thankfully I didn't release our T2 increasingly enterprise ready Linux distribution the other month, because I found some bugs, some regressions, and although the other thing is, so yeah, testing, recurring theme, right? Testing, and more testing, and the only substitute for testing is more testing. Because I found some regressions that affected actually all, like, super stupid stuff, right? Remember, like, some years ago I implemented set standard compressed firmware, and eventually it was recently applied to the Linux kernel. And they used, of course, the only constant has changed, they used some different .config name. I thought I adapted that, but also I think in my initial patch you only had to enable one set standard or setx, and of course upstream they made it a little bit different, so you had to enable init.rd compress. So long story short is the serial attached SCSI controller QLA to XXX 2000 series didn't work because didn't load firmware. Other stuff. So basically, this is a little bit of log, like this is stuff like how much attention to detail can you apply, and what does it take to develop a freaking operating system like our increasingly successful T2 Linux distribution, right? And that is the stuff like, if you don't test it, it ain't work, and if you don't test it, even if it does work, maybe it sucks. Another thing is, I noticed, so on such server hardware with this ASP media service processor with VGA, like this hardware includes here, I can show you that two here somewhere of here, for example, right, and a little bit larger for you to play along at home, this ASP graphic stuff. And so that is a modern DRM driver. Also it is marked experimental in the kconfig, because of course 7 years later it's still experimental, because what professional server business would test enterprise grade Linux stuff? But so of course it wasn't in the init.rd, right? And you don't really need that, because obviously I have somewhere, like here I have a serial console here anyway, over the usual sideband advanced integrated lights out management console controller thing. But long story short, so I didn't really want to include graphics drivers in the init.rd, like Sync Novo and AMD GPU, because they are just so huge, right? So not only would it make the init.rd tens of megabytes larger, which our init.rd is already generic and relatively large, but I don't want to double or triple or like 50 megabyte freaking init.rd, because for all the modern drivers, AMD GPU and Novo and maybe even Intel, you actually need the firmware in there, right? So not only you have tens of megabytes of 3D capable graphic drivers in the early early operating system init.rd startup, but the also the firmware, right? So you easily, 50 megabyte plus, certainly not what I want. But what I did now, I included like 2. I mean, obviously I will not go and ship AMD GPU and init.rd, but you don't usually need those because you have EFI frame buffer, right? So the early boot stuff, like to enter your full disk encrypted Luke's password, you can obviously enter on an EFI system platform frame buffer. But for such server stuff, where you especially on non-x86 stuff, where you otherwise might not have graphics output, so I included now this AST DRM driver, so that makes the driver is small, but unfortunately it pulls in quite some dependencies, so depends on DRM chemist, so like DRM infrastructure stuff, but that is not as huge as 25 megabyte of AMD and NVIDIA firmware and drivers. The other thing I thought, okay, while at it, let's add VirtIO GPU just for the, if you want that, and tiny small, because we have then already all the DRM stuff. So yeah, that is all this kind of stuff. I also have some non-x86 grub stuff to do. How did I... Okay, that is good. So this is just my workstation. Good that I checked this. Don't want to waste my epic thread gripping GPU cycles. By the way, is the background noise too loud? Because obviously that is enterprise grade rack hardware. So this is only because I tried to download that the other day before it was released. So I probably had a 404 file there or stuff like that. Nothing too serious. So yeah, let's take a look. Of course, I adapted this already. Of course, while at it, I found some other new kernel options that are nice to have enabled. Also, OData updated SSH. So yeah, for those open source fans playing along at home, there is a new Open SSH. LibreOffice and Firefox updates that we already have in our premium Linux distribution. T2 now running on 127.5 gigabyte 64 core threads server hardware. Okay, people can welcome everyone. So what else did I do? So this one was so this is not only affecting this specific server hardware. Maybe leave in the comments below if you already guessed what it is. Share, like, and subscribe. I will make dedicated video of this stuff. But if I tell you now, then of course, if you like, I need to motivate people to share, like, and subscribe for the next big video, also on my main channel. So AST, the firmware, and also the firmware stuff affected everything, like booting on an SJ Octane, or probably UltraSpark 30 or stuff, or other, because QLA 1200 and 2000 whatever. So it affected all firmware requiring vital init.rd drivers. Maybe I didn't SVN up only list to the base revision. So firmware loader. Just as I said, did I commit already? Or maybe I didn't commit this init.rd stuff yet, did I? Or maybe I did. I committed it yesterday already. So Starship, hello. Where is what? Didn't commit this yet. So yeah, QLA, I changed, this is only changing, I fixed some white space and also added here comments. So it's on this server, it was about this, but again, it would have affected all of those. AST is new to include this, so it's also including that here. I need to include this twice in our init.rd because this is matching what to include here with the default filter. And it wouldn't include the AST because AST has optional firmware that is rarely used and stuff. So I need to tell our init.rd things like this is like some vital stuff and even include the firmware and also even if it's missing. So yeah, this is tested now. We can commit this. Oops. Oh, nothing like typing too fast. Set firmware and everything. There was one comment somewhere which so fix start to include some vital DRM. And vital because you might, depending on, for example, you run QEMU for some virtualization business, there might be some occurrences, especially without platform initialization, where you don't have virt.io GPU otherwise initialized, and then you don't have video output, which might suck if you debug some new stuff, because I initially didn't have console on this platform. So start includes some LTM drivers, AST-virt. Oops. I guess that makes some sense. Any typos, any, so that are just comments. The slide white comments I usually just include there. That probably looks good and is tested. So yeah, that's probably it. Did I? Alright, I had on this actually. Let's commit from here. Lua, I removed this. I'm here trapped in, as usual, between different keyboards and keyboard layouts. It's the usual stuff here. So. Let's see from Lua. Only thing is now I need to switch to my famous password entering. The less I leak, the better. And so yeah, then we can emerge something for fun. If you ever wanted to see how stuff emerges with 127.5 gigs and cores. And alright, I have running this twice. Very clever for me. What did we wanted to emerge otherwise? I mean, we can try what happens with Xemacs, although leave me the comments below because Vim is already installed. This is basically then also like testing. I mean, I also added quite some stuff to my to-do, right? The only thing is the more I test, the more bugs I find, right? It's the usual. So yeah, if you want to release some software, better stop testing. Yeah, for example, I noticed that on non-x86, like our emerge should actually check if the package is selected. Not, for example, disabled on them, because I accidentally tried to emerge LuaJIT, but forgot that that isn't supported on this platform. All right, and then theoretically, like on this, like yesterday or the other day, on the ARM access point, right, increasingly running our business Linux on everything, including toasters and access points. And so probably on like not state-of-the-art hardware, we don't necessarily need to recompress. So maybe I should actually change, like not today because it's a little bit tricky. It always sounds easy, but then it's a little bit messy because all our build scripts rely on some specific file name, and if it then didn't recompress, then the file name is different. So that it needs a little bit more coding and testing. But I think, like, for stuff that's not on the mirror and so on, it probably would be beneficial not to recompress things, for example. So, also I didn't build that. So did I build this with verbose, or did I Why did this not... GPM, what is with GPM? GPM also failed. Oh no, we tried to rebuild this again. Ah darn, now the rebuild is very clever for me. So what's failing is there was already error, something. What the heck? It might be a generic error. I didn't see it too much. GPM might be a new make regression. Was already error or? Yeah, depend. It is always possible. That is simply. I mean, who is running GPM knows such file directory. Oh, cool. It's somehow. Maybe it's some maybe it's some parallel build thing. It is possible that it's a generic, or it looks like it's a generic build issue that might be caused by the latest Mac version, right? I remember some months ago there new Mac release and instant regressions. Do we even actually quick double check? Did I update to? Did they ever fix that? I remember, maybe I didn't. Where's the freaking download? Ah, here's it. Oh no, we didn't update. So yeah, actually the new version is so broken that, yeah, I think it didn't build glibc or stuff. And if stuff, we better wait another release for that. So yeah, the only thing, the recurring theme, even the latest Epic and Threadripping AMD Ryzen and Intel stuff, the serialized configure time is of course too long, right? So it's like most of the time spent in the future. So now the Epic, I hope even Emacs is marked as, where's my, I didn't focus. That failed. Recurring theme, maybe I shouldn't try. Show dumb. Oh, this is not so. Oh, what's going on here? There is something. Oh, this is some Perl nonsense. Alright, we need to rebuild profiles. Yeah, okay, the recurring. Actually, you know what, let's build this in two. Because we need Python 2. Let's build this in parallel. This was false. So yeah, that's it basically then for this video. I have some other stuff to attend. But yeah. Especially, it would actually be really embarrassing to release T2 with this firmware, compressed firmware that the kernel can't load. And that is the thing, right? I mean, theoretically, you know what we should, if we would be truly professionals, like few people really are, we should actually test that, right? I have already, I had somewhere some other file, I need to dig it out where on which machine I left my other to-do file, but test suite, for example. So theoretically you should, like if you were like, again, very few people are, but I wonder how many Linux distributions have a professional test suite. So what we should add to our test suite is actually kernel can load compressed firmware. But the thing is, why do I write this? Because it could break again in 6 months, right? You never know what the upstream people change. And the problem is then if you don't daily use it, you will not notice for quite a while, right? Because I have very few systems, like no normal desktop workstation or embedded stuff needs this, right? I have this basically SJ Octane, the Sun Ultraspark stuff, this enterprise server stuff. So it's not, I mean, if you run enterprise server stuff, you probably often have this for this SCSI and serial attached SCSI firmware business. But yeah, and then also some Ethernet stuff and so on. But yeah. So my headset just dinged. Maybe I run out of noise cancelling battery. Or maybe it just disconnected because I didn't have video music playing. Anyway, that's it for this video. The only constant is change and regressions, and the only substitute for testing is more testing. We probably have t-shirts of that there in our merchandise store. And I'm thrilled that even this work just perfects T2, right? Whatever I touch here, you could argue. I mean, the firmware compression was really unfortunate. And the other stuff is also just nice to have, right? As this AST and VirtIO. Theoretically, there is also the AST firmware, which is not in Linux firmware. So next I should actually also I think I added this to the to-do already. Yeah. There's also an NDNS swapping bug actually. Or maybe I didn't add this to my to-do. Let's package AST firmware, because of course it's not in Linux firmware. So yeah, that's it for this video. I have some other stuff to work on and prepare. And I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Yeah, this is a recompression. I mean, somewhat superfluous to locally recompress this. Certainly, but this is also the stuff, right? If on my Epic thread-ripping Ryzen machines, I don't notice because it recompresses in a snap. And the more you use your own stuff, especially on not current or next gen, but last gen, then you notice more things. Another thing is, I wonder how I can make this better, but maybe I can't. That this don't really want to show all the MAC addresses and potential. So this machine currently has 12 freaking Ethernet interfaces, and of course I plugged the cable into the Ethernet 0, but or like built-in system board 0. But yeah, of course that is ETH5, and it's like, yeah, of course it is. So basically, like, after testing 0, and then I thought, okay, there are like 2 multiple quad cards in there. I thought I tested 0 and 4 and 8, I think, and none of it was like if up and eth tool, does it have link? And like after testing 3, I like 4 sequence in 011 if config -a eth $i up, and then like, but yeah, this is a little bit silly, right? Like if you have like, I don't often have that, but like if you have 12 freaking enterprise Ethernet interfaces like fiber and optic and 10 gig and stuff, then it's like, yeah, that is somehow not ideal. Anyway, that's it for this video. Like, if you have a solution to that, probably not. So this is compressing. So yeah, the next release will be amazing, even more tested, and I'm thrilled as usual that whatever I touch makes our Linux distribution just so much better. I hope you learned this and enjoyed something. And what CPU is a server, you need to subscribe. And the next videos I will also, so like this hardware is so otherwise so amazing, I will actually make a proper, like, I will finally take the time again to make a proper introduction and disassemble video, because it is such beautiful hardware. So don't forget to share, like, and subscribe on the more main channel there for this beautiful piece of server hardware to come.